Are you prepared to break free from the conventional notions of luxury and wealth? Unlock the secrets to managing and growing family wealth while preserving legacy. Welcome to Beyond Wealth.
Jocelyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jonathan.
So I want to do a quick rundown. The company that you work for?
Yes, it's a private family with several residences and different locations.
Awesome. And your role currently?
Director of Residences.
And how long have you been in that role?
I have been here for this particular family 2.5 years.
And can you just share your team size with us?
Team size, it's currently about 8 people.
Awesome. Okay. I appreciate the background. And on that same note, would love to have you kind of share your background, your story with us, any inspiring moments along the way that have helped you get to where you are today. We'd love to learn more about you.
Thank you. I actually fell into this kind of role by mistake. I went searching for an import-export type of position after I had moved back from France, and I was in New York, and it was about the times when we were looking for jobs. We would open the newspaper, the New York Times, and we would look for the ads, right? And so it was like that back then. And I ended up showing up for that job post, and they had already filled it. So they offered me a position with a French architect, a very talented French architect. And they said, we haven't been able to fill this position. I was wondering if, you know French, if you would be willing to go and interview. And so I did. And I loved him. He's the type of person that gets things done, that's very strict, that knows exactly what he wants, and very successful, very poised, very elegant man. And so he and I had a French and English conversation, and he criticized my French after the interview. And from that moment on, I worked for him for 10 years. So that was kind of how I fell into it. He had several homes, a staff of probably, I managed his business and his personal life. And so it was people abroad, and all in all, it was about 30, a staff of 30. And I traveled quite a bit. And then I decided that it was time to move on, and I worked for someone in the financial industry, not my favorite industry. Then I worked for someone in the education field, and she was a magnificent, magnificent boss. Talk about tough. She is one of my favorite people to this day. She taught me a lot. And I think people that have not had executive assistants or someone to manage their lives, they don't quite understand what a change it is after we start working for them. They don't even understand how to use us, quite honestly, until they then look back and see the transformation that we've created in their lives. And so I worked for her, and then I had worked in New York for 15 years, and I got tired of the rat race. And so I moved to Tennessee and ended up in Nashville, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, and a couple of things that are, that our listeners may or may not know, but it is a big transition when, for a family that might not have had service prior to actually experiencing that for the first time. And the expectation is that, and in my experience is that it may take 2 or 3 years for that family to really find its footing and understand, like, what do they really like? How do they really like it? From everything from like their culinary experience to service, and their experience in the home, and that's a natural learning curve that pretty much everyone goes through because it is very unique. And one of the things that I can tell just by talking to you right now is you're happy. And if there's one thing that I absolutely believe, it's that if somebody is happy, that means that they probably have a really great principal, a really great team. Because you are a reflection of the people around you, and so it looks like that you seem to be in a really good place professionally. So that's awesome.
Yes, thank you. I have a really, really good principal, and very sweet and appreciative. And I think that this is kind of where you want to end up. But it's not necessarily always that way. But I appreciate all of the bosses I had because we learned from each other one way or another, right? There are things that I might have learned from my previous boss that I can apply to this principal now. So no matter what their quirks are or how difficult they seem at the moment, you always are learning every single day. From the shade of white that the flowers should be to the grass needs to be greener, lighter, or I think one of your colleagues said, Josh, he mentioned that someone had requested the ocean to be more oceany. So, so we get all kinds of requests, but at the end of the day, it's fun, and I'm a happy person.
Yeah, and I think that your background, having had to have served, it's very difficult to serve both on the personal side and the business side for a principal. So having done that was, I can only imagine, gave you really great perspective on, kind of both sides of the coin, and actually making you, now that you're in this role, kind of just on the family side, even more polished and better because you understand the kinds of the ins and outs of the other side of what your principal and your family is actually dealing with on a professional level.
Right. And one of the things that I do have in common with all of the people that I've worked for is that they had never had an assistant before. So I kind of molded the position, and it ended up being a personal and executive side, which in reality, it really shouldn't be. You shouldn't really mix the two. Right. But since I was just kind of thrown into the situation, I kind of created a dual role there, if you will. So it ended up being, I ended up liking it quite a bit because this way you get to recognize what the principal's priorities are, how they like things done, their preferences. You get to prioritize whose birthday needs to be taken care of better, or which suit color he likes the most, or whatever. Right. Maybe, right. But that professional level with the personal level was pretty interesting for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think just at a basic level, I think it's really important and powerful to know what's going on in the professional world, because that's going to help you better manage the other side. So there's a lot of power in the knowledge of just knowing what's going on from a professional perspective for a principal. So it sounds like you're also probably a really good coach when it comes to helping first-time families. So that's probably another hidden skill set. But talking about I want to really talk about family governments, and from your perspective, how can a family establish and then maintain a governance structure that focuses both on individuals within the family, but also taking the family's interest into making sure that their goals are also being achieved within that structure.
I think the one thing that I train staff, and it's very important for me to have the staff be aware of, is that when you work in family governance, it's still their home, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are the staff, and we are supposed to be kind of in the background. We're not supposed to be front and center. So there has to be kind of this tactfulness and discretion that needs to be assumed on an everyday level and basis. And so I run into people that say, oh yeah, I've been an executive assistant. I filled in for 2 months for an executive assistant or whatever. And it's just got so many levels that you don't really understand how quiet and how discreet and how confidential everything is until you're actually here, right? You're not going to, you're going to train your staff to be, for example, if there's an event or if there's a dinner party, you have to know exactly when to take the dishes off of the table. Something as simple as that. The tone of the dog walker when he comes in, it can't be super loud because this is a home. They're trying to live in their home, and the staff is just there to serve but not be seen or heard. And that is, I think, the most difficult thing to train staff on. I think that there are a lot of good, hardworking people out there, but that is the hardest thing that I find to be able to train people on. And it's that this is still a place of work. Even though you're in a home, it's still a place of work, and you have to be respectful and you have to dress accordingly. And you can't go into the principal's refrigerator to, pour creamer in your coffee. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So that, I think, is the most, I have seen some crazy things out of people that they think that they're allowed to just walk into any space at any time, and it's just not acceptable.
Yeah, and I think your role, I imagine that you have process and things documented, because being able to know exactly what you're looking for as a top level director in an organization or a family office, and being able to then set that tone from day one, because there is there's a technical piece, but this is very much art and science combined together in order to really achieve being, quote unquote, invisible throughout a home, and knowing that the exact cues to pick up on and when to do things, and really learning the principles. So while things may take time to actually start to learn that family and their preferences, before all of that happens, that's a great prerequisite that you probably set for your staff, and helping them, maintain the experience that you're managing for the family. And so, when it comes to like procuring your staff, can you share some of the key factors that you're considering when you're hiring for, family office or for a property, and, making sure that how do you ensure selecting the right person? Like, what are some of the things that you do in the hiring process? I'd love to learn more about that.
Sure. Well, before COVID, it was a little bit different. I think before COVID, it was a little bit more formal in regards to actually interviewing people face to face and things like that. Before COVID, I used to request that a person show up in business dress. I used to request like a printed resume. I used to request that they show up on time. I used to request all of these things. And believe it or not, they're very simple things, but I had people showing up late or showing up in torn jeans or things like that. And I would not even interview them. Like I would make them turn around and go home. I'm just not that type of person. In regards to, I think, the process of the interview and the questions that I mostly ask about, I want to know if they are people that are accountable for what they're doing, right? So if I ask you, tell me about a mistake that you made and how you went about fixing it. If that person takes a long time to think about it or says that they can't really recall a mistake that they made, I don't think that's a good person to work with me, at least. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the mistake that you made. It's about the fact that you are not thinking that you made a mistake and that you will not be accountable, right, for your mistakes. So I think that accountability is a big strong for me. I also have a problem with people who ask how many vacation days they get. And it's just a little pet peeve of mine, but I would have never asked that. I was just grateful to have the job. And if I'm interviewing you, I'm letting you know that you're qualified and I appreciate you, but I don't appreciate being asked how many vacation days you're going to get in the first interview. I like strong work ethic. I like, people that roll up their sleeves. I have had to do everything from mop the floors to pick up dog poop to, get the coffee again because it was too sweet, or that planter behind you, it's the wrong tone of white. And so I have had to do it all. So if I'm asking for a strong work ethic, it's because I know what you're going to have to be doing, and it requires honesty and integrity. So don't like people that are lazy, that just show up late or give excuses of why they can't do something. I like people with a can-do attitude. And I like people that are respectful. I think that strong character is not shown by how loudly you speak or how forceful you are with your people. I think it's more about fairness. And if you are able to manage your people with equity and kindness, I think that that goes a very long way. And someone who might not have been 100% or a 10 to start out with, you can get them to a 10 if you are kind and gentle and serve as a guide, right? Because not everybody has worked in this field. I've been doing this for 30 years, but I want to get people to have done this for 30 years, but you can only do that with respect and kindness.
Yeah, so you mentioned a lot of really great attributes there, and I think when it comes to if you're thinking about getting into this space, it's really important to understand that if you really care about people at first and foremost, and you can have mutual respect, then you can really build trust and loyalty, and so. Now let's say you've assembled a great team, you have, you mentioned a lot of things that you're looking for as kind of markers as far as red flags go, right? Yeah. Right. So, which is really helpful as well, also to know what to look for if someone's probably not going to be a good fit, because again, you then know that they probably don't have all of the attributes that you're ultimately looking for. But, now that you've assembled a team and you're now working to retain them, right? What are some of the strategies that you use? You mentioned kindness and respect, but, you've spent a lot of time, looking for the right people. You do the best job that you can. Now you get them together. Yeah, you're always looking for a long-term relationship where trust and loyalty is a big deal and grows over time. So, really interested in maybe some of the strategies, team building. What are some of the things that you do to help maintain culture and build people up?
Well, I think that staff meetings and team meetings are extremely important. Calendar sharing is extremely important. This household knows where everyone is at every single moment of the day and every single day. And I think that is a regular staff meeting. So we'll meet, for example, every Monday. We'll all meet and we'll coordinate the week, and we'll coordinate menus, and we'll coordinate which vendors are coming. Are the landscapers coming? The car wash detail guy, is he coming? The dog groomer, is she coming? So everybody knows who will be here at what time and what day. Hoarding of information is one of the biggest mistakes that I think house managers or director of residences or anybody that's managing makes. Because if you don't share information, you're keeping your team from really being able to serve the principal and the rest of the team, right? So I think that information sharing is extremely important. I think that reviewing with each person candidly, if something has gone wrong. There's a great book called Radical Candor that I really, really like. And it's about just kind of being straightforward in a very kind and fair way about what you have done correctly and what you could have done better. So hot washing situations, I think, are extremely important also. Just going over the whole event, let's say a Thanksgiving event, just going over it and going over it before the event. And then if there were any issues that went wrong, or even if everything was correct, let's go over it again. Let's make it a SOP, right? And so for next year, you do have it. One of the best things in the world is that platform that you created, EstateSpace. I cannot be more thankful for that, because it's just changed my life completely. And I'm sure it's changed a lot of other lives. That platform has also been very helpful because different users can have visibility into different areas. So I have the business manager looking at timesheets, and I can have, my assistant looking at the vendor billing for that this week or this month. And I can concentrate on Thanksgiving and Christmas events. And with the chef, I can coordinate menus. So it's been extremely, extremely helpful just to have that kind of technology to be able to work with that.
Yeah, and that's very, very, very kind. And, having come out of service and doing that for, 15 years, it was, why do we do what we do? And I think, just being on this call, we really care about the people that we serve. And that's all. It's always like the best feeling when you have that true, authentic leading factor. And so, you did mention hoarding of information, and I just want to make mention to that a lot of times I've fallen victim to this as well, but a lot of times people may feel like by not sharing something, they may be protecting their team because maybe they don't want to burden their team. So it may be coming from a good place, but something that I've learned is that you actually end up hurting the team by not letting them know everything that they really should need to know. And so it actually has the opposite effect that someone may think it does. And the other thing that it sounds like you do well is also letting people know, having empathy and understanding, letting them know, I could imagine that you feel nervous, or this is very stressful, and this is our first big event together, and just that's another great way in which you can really connect with a person and then help them get comfortable, take a breath, and then go actually execute and helping them to, have success in the workplace.
Yes, it can be nerve-wracking. I mean, you have all sorts of important people, let's say, entering the household. And so for some folks, it can be where they're even jittery bringing a plate out to the table. So it's just about calming everyone down. And this is a football team, right? We've all got to come together to get it right. So.
Yep. And so, talking about like the balancing of tradition and family values with innovation and new management approaches, can you talk a little bit about that and how you're, how you're balancing, the family's values with, new innovations and approach, and then there's change when it comes to kind of your team and property management across the estate?
Sure. Well, in regards to innovation, I think that the blending of technology within our daily routines has been a big deal for us. So, for example, not only EstateSpace, but we have used internal messaging systems like Slack. We have used Trello, which is a great, it's like a whiteboard. It's great for lists and things like that. So, for example, purchasing lists, regular routine little checklists that the handyman has to do. That's a great way to use Trello. Grocery lists, like I mentioned before. We've also I have given the team access to an Amazon business account. So what the housekeepers will do, for example, if they're in need of something, they don't need to come to me. They go to the one household business account and they just put whatever they need into their cart. And at the end of the day, I review the cart and I just press send. Just making sure that everything is exactly what we need. We've also created a shared calendar. We've created a principals calendar. And then we each have our own calendar. And so all of us can see all of the calendars at the same time. That's helpful because in a family like this one, it's always necessary to have at least two people in the home. So, and I don't like the principal asking, well, where's so-and-so or where's so-and-so, or everybody knows if Joss isn't in the house, everybody knows where I am. Oh, she ran to do this, or she's doing this, or she had an appointment there or there. So I think that just like everything is a team effort here. The other platform that we use that's great is 1Password. 1Password is awesome. It has changed my boss's life completely, and it has changed mine because then you don't get phone calls at 10 o'clock at night saying, hey, what's the password for this or that? Or he just opens up 1Password and he's there. So all of these little things, I think, by themselves aren't great or not life-changing, but all of them together are life-changing, at least for us in the position that we're in. So that way um, theoretically, you have a 24/7 job, but if you can help yourself with all of these different apps or platforms, then you're being able to sleep maybe an additional hour or two.
Yeah, no, for sure. Really appreciate that, and given me a couple of new ideas, which is always fun. So, you talked about sleeping for a couple more hours. So, what are some of the things that you do, Joss, to actually have a work-life balance and take care of you?
Well, I'm a little bit of a workaholic. My boyfriend would definitely say that.
Thanks a lot, Aaron. I appreciate it.
But my mind is always going. But I do like to read. I like to hike. I like to kayak. And I like to travel. And I think that part of what I've started doing just recently is not taking my laptop home every day. I do have a personal phone and a work phone, and that is sometimes helpful. Not all the time, but I do. If I'm at an event or something, I will let my boss know I'm going to an event. And he does not expect me to answer. So if I forget my work phone, it's not a huge deal. So having two different phones, leaving your laptop at home, being intentional about date nights, being intentional about family. My daughter just got married this past weekend. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. Being intentional about blocking out family time. And that's not something that you know how to do when you first start out doing this. I was a single mom, and my poor daughter, I worked from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. And she would be telling me a story, and I would be looking at my phone, and now I remember these things, and I just feel so bad for not having paid more attention to her. So it is a very difficult and stressful and time-consuming job. But if I were to go back, I would make more family time. And that's what I'm trying to do with the purpose now and being more present.
Yeah. And what I love in that statement, though, is that you've recognized the opportunity. So none of us can go back, but going forward, you can make it intentional and have that be part of your aim, and making sure that you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your family. And for principals that might be listening, overworking your team is going to not serve you best, because especially when it comes to if they have personal events that they might be attending, or your daughter's wedding, for example, giving them space to do that as an individual is extremely important for their well-being, which ultimately is important for your well-being. So do try to give space when space is absolutely needed for your team. I found that the best families and family offices are very successful at making space for their people. Yes. And that's the wonderful aspect about my current job. I have a wonderful principal who absolutely recognizes family time and personal time. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So, Jocelyn, tell everyone how they can find you. Well, I guess through email or on LinkedIn. Wonderful. You can find me there. Just shoot me a message if I can be helpful in sourcing house managers, executive assistants. I belong to two forums, two different groups and forums. And so
I have lots of ways to source people. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, Jocelyn, we love you as a person. So happy that you were able to join us today on Beyond Wealth. And hopefully everyone that's listening has gotten a lot of valuable insights and takeaways, and appreciate Jocelyn's time as much as I do today. For anyone that's listening, please, drop us a review, like us, share us. The more followers, the more fuel that we have to have wonderful guests like Jocelyn and others on our show. So again, Jocelyn, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll look forward to having you back at some point in the future.
Thank you, Jonathan. You're the best. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you found this conversation valuable, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or watch the conversion unfold on our YouTube channel at EstateSpace. We will see you next time on Beyond Wealth.